Hello, working? Is that better? Okay, that seems to work. I'm really, really low. What if I do that? Does that make it better? Hmm. What? Hello, let's try that. It seems to be working. I'm just incredibly, incredibly low. Why? I didn't change anything. Why are you doing this to me? Oh, geez. Okay. Let's try that. Testing. 1, 2. Oh, there we go. Let's keep going. Let's turn it up to 11. Testing. That works. Too loud now. Sorry. All right. Let's try too loud. Sorry. Let's do this. Let's actually, what if I quit this? Good movie. Turn it up to 11. I knew someone would get it. Let's try right in the middle. Let's see. Does that work for everyone? This one goes to 11. Spinal Tap. Am I better now? Does that work for everyone? I sound good in my ears. Maybe a little bit louder. There we go. Okay, my apologies. A little bit too loud. Well, I guess you can always turn it down a bit, but you can just use the slider on YouTube if you want to turn it down a bit, as long as it's not clipping, right? If I go back here, does that still work? Okay. So sorry for that. I don't know what happened. I didn't do anything. I literally, I don't think I've used this computer kind of since the last stream, but updates, right? Something broke. So again, if you guys are all new here, my name is Michael Noss. I'm a chartered market technician and quantitative trader, and this is the time of the week where we go through crypto, forex, stocks, try to figure out what's going on for this week, try to figure out what's going to happen next week. I do my watch list to update, what I'm going to watch going into this week, and then I open it up to you guys. So if there's anything you want me to look at, if there's any questions, comments, concerns, any charts you want me to look at, anything you want to talk about trading, that's one of the reasons I like to do these live as opposed to the recordings I do, is because it gives me interaction with you guys. Before we get started, again, this is a preview of what I do every day over at Stats Edge Trading. I'm getting my own merch going here. Everything else I bought is insanely too big for me, but this one seems to fit pretty good. So if you go over there, there is Stats Edge Pro. That's kind of every night I put together my watch list. I take all the screenshots, so you're going to see me take a lot of screenshots here just while I'm talking about different stocks, because I annotate all the charts up that I think are interesting enough to share. They all go over into a blog post, so every night you can see my thoughts on all of these markets. We also have a live trading chat room where we just hang out and chat. I don't believe in signal services, So if that's what you're looking for, so I'm going to tell you what to trade. I don't believe that that's how this works. I believe that you have to build your own trading plan. You have to go through it. You have to do that work, or else when things go bad, you're going to be, going on to the next thing or flailing. As someone who's done a fair amount of that myself, I speak from experience. So generally what I try to do there is I talk about this is how I see things. These are, suggestions or tips or how to build your own thing. We have a smart group over there, so that's cool as well. You get access to all of my scans across TrendSpider and Trade Ideas. We do a once a month Q&A session where I sit down and answer any and all questions that anyone can have. Just live open Q&A. Again, a link is in the description below for that. It's less than $2 a day. So if you're interested, no commitment. If you're interested, give that a shot. Also, for my trading tools, both TrendSpider Trading View and Trading View. Again, links in the descriptions below for that. Full disclosure, those are affiliate links. I always like to put that straight up front so you guys know where the bias lies. Okay. I think that was all my housekeeping rants. Oh, and I saw someone like the video. I get a little indicator over there. I appreciate that very much. YouTube always says if I want more people to watch the channel, I have to do that very cringy begging for likes. So I apologize. I have to do that. That's how it works. So I saw a couple come through there. Thank you very much. Sounds good to me. A little loud, but it's okay. Okay, you can just turn that down. It's easier to turn down, turn up. So, all right, stocks. Let's push me over into here. And because I am an incredibly boring creature of habit, we are going to start in the crypto space. Go over my thoughts on crypto. So, just to summarize kind of the last few months of me with crypto, we were watching this bear flag. We took a short as it broke down. We got out most of the position on this flush. We got stopped out the rest of the position on this little bounce, which kind of sucks. Last week, you can see the note that I had for the Stats Edge Pro members. This yawn was obviously as we were just kind of chopping around in this area. So let's actually just remove that. I had been saying, I said on my midweek market wrap-up video and the last live stream that the more a instrument sits on support, the more likely I've noticed that it's going to break, right? It's kind of like, what was the Seinfeld quote? He was breaking up with this girl and he says it's like pushing over a vending machine. You can't do it all in one push. You have to rock it back and forth a little bit and then shove. It's kind of the same with support zones. If you make a big move like this down into support, the odds more likely is you're going to kind of bounce or chop sideways. And as a personal mentor of mine says, Brian Shannon, is price can either correct through price or through time, right? So an oversold condition in this case has to digest via price or via time. So that means, right, if you make a massive move down and you're oversold, a lot of people think that definitely means you're going to bounce. Well, you can, but also the way the math works is you can correct an oversold position just by going sideways through time. So in this scenario, it looks like that's exactly what happened, and then we broke down again this weekend. So during my Wednesday video, again, if you guys are new to the channel, subscribe, hit the little bell. It will notify you when I post videos. I do maybe one a day. It's way less than that as a new dad, but hopefully that's going to correct itself soon as sleep is happening a little bit more. But in my Wednesday video, I talked about how I had a stop limit to enter right here. So I got triggered there yesterday. And my stop's just right above this point here. Just going to see if we sell off from there. It'd be karma. I guess there's this number of 21,000 going around where Michael Saylor gets margin called. That would just kind of be fitting. So I wouldn't be shocked if we hit that. I put in some kind of stink bids. Brian Ludd calls them in the 11,000 and 9,000 area to cover my short and accumulate a bunch of Bitcoin if and when that occurs. But I'm just going to treat this like a trade. So I'm going to, scale out if we get a move in my favor and trail the rest of the stop down until that stop gets hit. But looks broken. Nothing I would really act on, right? You could, I guess, if you really wanted to shoot for the fences, you could kind of take a shot on this. Personally, I don't really think it's the move, but if you are a support player, you would wait till it gets back above support and then go from there. The way I'm looking at it is, unless we kind of clear these highs in the near future, then I'm not interested. We need to see some more constructive action. There's really nothing here that yells at me that it's time to buy. Now, as we go through the other cryptos, a lot of them are the same. Oh, Luna's up a bit. So let's just all YOLO directly into this Luna as hard as we can. I kid, of course. Then there's really nothing else on the crypto space that is holding up significantly well. This Tron, I took some of this Tron, this TRX. I'm still in it, hasn't moved. I should really probably look into what this thing does, because it's acting like more of a stable coin than Luna. So that's hilarious. But just chopping around sideways here, basically I took it because it cleared the anchored VWAP from this high, and it's just kind of holding here. So that's the only crypto position I have now other than the short. Everything else I was watching is breaking down. Mana, I liked the look of because it had this pretty sustained bounce. If this had made a higher low, I'd be interested. It still technically could, but it's got a long way to go. PaxG is the only one that's up, and that's because that's a gold crypto. So that mirrors gold. Really nothing else. I was watching ApeCoin. Because it was sitting in this area here and had a little RSI divergence go on, but it broke down. So really one of those times that it's almost best just to say that's it, right? I'm not going to push the crypto space too hard. The reason I always start, if anyone's watched this, you notice I always start with crypto and I always start with Bitcoin, is because I look at Bitcoin as kind of like the index. So like how people look at the S&P 500 or the Dow or something and say, I'm going to look at this index and see how this moves. And then I'm going to dive into individual stocks to try to get that. If I think the index is going to go up, I'm going to try to be more involved in the upside. If I think the index is going to go down, I'll be more involved on the short side. And I do the same thing. Bitcoin to me is the index. Doesn't mean that a cryptocurrency can't move higher, but just the odds of that moving higher are way less. So when we're in a potential kind of crash mode like this, or at least a pretty big sell-off, I just kind of want to stay out of the crypto space. Short if I have any shorts going on, but just keep my money mostly in cash. If we sell off, like if we go out to the longer term chart, and if this becomes a kind of prior test of this support right here, or even I have this anchored VWAP from here, and I have this one, we're right at that now from this low. But if we get to kind of this area, 14,000 or so, and we start to base and then push higher, that would be interesting because that would also correspond with this high right here. Not going to say my target or anything. I hate making targets like that. I don't think it's really beneficial. But say we sell down here and we chop around for a while and then we move higher, I will certainly get involved. But again, like my mentor Brian Shannon always says, you don't buy stuff in downtrends. So I'm going to wait until it's back into an uptrend before I get involved. So over into the traditional currency space, because I trade crypto and I trade actual currencies. I usually start this one out with the UUP, which for people who don't know, the UUP is just a dollar index. So it's the dollar versus a handful of other securities. So I'm just going to keep putting USD to the moon. Right, we were watching this rounded bottom forever. We were watching this breakout that occurred, this breakout that occurred. I thought maybe this one. I thought maybe that was going to be a failed breakout and we were going to push down. Didn't really happen. That was just a little pullback. So actually, let's remove those and remove that. So the dollar continues to be strong. Looking at how these other currencies are going, like Aussie dollar has gapped up a little bit. Euro dollar, this one's continuing to move down. So it looks like we have a flattish open on the dollar. So that means this chart probably won't be too much changed, but right, is this just another rounded bottom? If so, right, we're still in the same boat. Now, I was hanging out in a spaces with JC from All Star, and he brought up a good point that I thought was really interesting. That basically, do you see a world in which the dollar is rocketing, and so are equities and bonds, that they turn around as well? And I agree with them that I think for those things to perform well, the dollar has to pull back, because if you kind of overlay price compare, SPY line close, apply, not close enough. Oh, that means I already have that. Let's get rid of this. Price compare right there. So we kind of have a bit of an inverse kind of relationship going on, right? We have the dollar doing a bottoming pattern, a little bit later, the market doing a topping pattern. And then if you notice this trend versus that trend, it does look like we've got a little bit of an inverse relationship going on there. These relationships can break down at any time, so this isn't like gospel or anything. Something to note, right? Maybe we are going to get some more bearish action in the markets if this thing takes off, but let's just focus now on kind of the crypto markets. So AUD, we picked some up right here, Aussie yen. This was just an amazing trade. I got out of all of this right here as it broke back down. Kind of a failure to hold this high was where I took my chips. That, I think, dollar-wise, is my best trade of the year, which is funny because currencies don't move very much, but that was just so clean. I was able to buy here with a stop like right here. So this risk was very, very tiny. I was actually taking it on a smaller chart. I don't even know if I'll be able to find it. But yeah, so I took it somewhere in this area with a stop like right here. So this kind of area was my risk. And then I got all of that for return. Obviously, I was selling in parts. I didn't get the whole position for that long, but just dollar-wise, just an amazing trade. Nothing really to do from it here. I'm watching this pullback. I've got these anchored VWAPs in place. You know, if we can pull back and settle on one, maybe I can reload for another shot. Aussie dollar, I was watching this trend line break. I took some short as that moved. Didn't get nearly as much as the position as I wanted. There was some choppiness on Friday, I think, that got me out of some of this. Just so you know how I trade crypto is I use all these longer term time frames to kind of get direction. Then I use some shorter time frames to sometimes scalp around them for longer term trades like this, where I want to hold for a couple days. I just set out the stop limit. I trade with a Forex prop firm, so I can just say, hey, if it breaks this area, get me in, put my stop loss here. I just calculate my size, and then it will, alert my phone and everything when one of those things occurs. So I don't have to, watch it. Euro GBP seems like this is a good scalping vehicle, but I think a daily time frame is a little bit too long to watch this. Doesn't really move very much, but maybe a good little scalping vehicle. So this overhead resistance might be interesting. You can see I shorted it here once back in the day, and decent little scalps, but nothing right home boat. Just like I said, everything versus the dollar broke down last week, which makes sense because the dollar kind of pushed up. So a lot of these charts are going to look the same. There's really nothing too much to do with them. I keep drawing these anchored VWAPs, and if we get bounces up into them, maybe that's the area to short. Same with the New Zealand dollar, USD CAD, right? You could just flip this and go CAD USD. And this one I'm interested in just because of this level right here. You can see how this 128, 130 has been a very important zone right here. So if we can get through that and then maybe base for a little bit and then push higher, that might be the move to take that off that. And Aussie dollar doing way better, or sorry, dollar yen is doing way better than Aussie yen was. It's not pulling back, it's just continuing. So the yen just sucks. And then I put this here just because I found out a couple weeks ago I can trade gold with this prop firm. So I've been scalping a lot of gold just because it works like that. But really nothing to say, nothing. I'm not even going to add any charts to the watch list just because everything versus the dollar is going to be going down. So unless you're trading a cross pair like Aussie yen, it's all just tracking the dollar. The dollar is just so strong right now. It's kind of dictating everything else that's going on. So into here, and this is Trade Ideas. This is what I use for my scanning, equity trading. I link this to my Interactive Brokers account. I use the auto trading through it and the whole nine. The other one, TrendSpider, I use for some advanced charting. Their drawing tools are way better. And I use it mainly for the things that Trade Ideas doesn't have access to, so like crypto and FX. So let's start. If we're going to talk about the markets, we got to start with the SPY. And we got to start with this kind of shit show that we had on Friday where we gapped down and just continued lower. What's interesting is this anchored VWAP right here from the COVID lows. And then also, let's go back, this anchored VWAP right here from the pre-COVID highs has been very interesting. So this is kind of the zone, I think, that if we're going to continue, to hold, I think we have to continue right here. So it'll be interesting, right? For anyone who's a TI Strength member, you would have gotten your email. I saw it come through. There's really nothing more to add. I kind of put a note there just to say, hey, this is where we're still watching. All right, so eyes back on. Now, what I will say, and this is like complete and utter horseshit, so take it with a grain of salt, but I have seen people who I've never seen use anchored VWAP before, ever, in their analysis, watching this anchored VWAP on the SPY. Like people who I've just, not only have I never seen use it, but I don't think it really even fits with their style. They're now big on this particular anchored VWAP. So that kind of makes me slightly worried, just because when you see people starting to kind of change their style to more or less fit what a support and resistance zone would be, I just start to get a little bit worried. I go, okay, you're almost looking for it. You're hunting for that reason. So that kind of has me worried. UUP, we just went over. So what I'm doing is I'm just clicking through now. I see I got to move myself over a little bit. Yeah, just do that. Just going through my list of ETFs that I have here. If I move myself, you can see I just got a big old list of ETFs there that I go through every day. and just try to figure out what's going on. Gold was very interesting to me. You guys know, who follow me, I'm not a big fan of gold. It's mainly because I think gold bugs are obnoxious. No offense if someone's a gold. I think I don't like ideologues, I guess is the way to put it. Anyone who's like, I'm a Bitcoin maximalist, or I am even when it comes to politics, I'm Canadian and I don't talk about politics, but it's like, I support this side always or that side always. It's no different from I'm a Mac and I'm a PC, or I'm a Dodge, I'm a Ford. So when I talk smack about gold, it's mostly because gold bugs are annoying. But that move on Friday in gold to me was super interesting. Where, hold on, I gotta turn on show pre-market. So when the number, and I know this because I was short gold going into it. I'm gonna lighten up the charts here. I think you guys let me know, is the blue nicer, or is it nicer if I do like if I just go pure white? I always think pure white might show up better on stream. But yeah, so gold basically, when the CPI number came out, tanked initially and then just rocketed like out of the blue. And so I had another short in through here that I made a little bit off of, and then I got stopped out the rest flat, and this thing just rocketed all friggin' day. And it was kind of the only thing. So for a long time, we've seen gold and the markets very, very correlated. And this was the first time in a while that I've seen a complete decoupling between gold and the market. So that's got me interesting. It's still a very crappy security, right? It's still just hanging out in this range. I think at gold, if you held it for 11 years now, you're down money. And if you held it for 2 years now, you're down money. However, that move was interesting. So I was going to put it on my radar just to say, maybe a momentum play in gold would be interesting. Now, full disclosure, when I look at these individual ETFs, I don't trade the ETFs. I just want to know what world I'm living in, because then if I'm running my scans and I see a gold name in it, then I'm going to be more interested, just because I've got this kind of this bias now towards gold. Soybeans and wheat, right? Anything commodity is doing great. Silver still sucks. The only people crazier than gold bugs, I think, are silver bugs. It had a bit of a reversal like that, but it was nowhere near that of gold. I wonder if gold is maybe starting its journey to be an inflation hedge after what's the worst inflation in 20 years. Maybe it's like, oh yeah, I'm supposed to be an inflation hedge. Who knows? Who knows why? And I guess who cares why, to be honest. Oil, it still looks strong. Like oil, we were looking at this ascending triangle for a while. We broke that. We continued higher there. Had a little pullback, but with oil, the way I look at it, if we hold above this high, that's where I'm interested. As long as we can hold above this high, I think gold or oil is interesting. A break below this high, that's kind of where I get a little bit iffy. Everywhere I look, the only things that fit my style of being in uptrends are oil and gold stocks and all the defensive names. They are getting really long in the tooth for me, which doesn't mean anything. More of a hydrogen maximalist. I'm an oxygen guy myself. So this is DBC, if you're interested, is a commodity fund. So this is kind of just a combination of a bunch of different commodities, just to give you a picture of what the commodity sector is doing. And you can see how insane this is. Again, long in the tooth, but that doesn't mean it can't go higher, right? It can always go higher. K-Web is still kind of interesting to me. Again, none of these I've really taken screenshots of yet, but let's actually, this is probably a good one to mark up. There are updates to Trade Ideas markup tools coming. I have been able to be kind of pivotal in that. I've begged them. So it's time to, as one of those CMT nerds that marks up my charts a lot, it's important. This one. So we have this kind of resistance zone right here. It'll be interesting to see if that holds. If it does, then that's kind of technically a change in trend, because we had our higher low that I look for right here. So then that's a higher low. If that ends up, hold on, move that over. If that ends up being a higher low, that's interesting to me. So I'm just kind of watching this 3150 area. If we can hold here and continue, that's great. I still am incredibly nervous about China. Question mark. The main reason for it is because they seem to be the only place in the world that's like just totally fine with tanking their market on purpose. But again, just prior support, resistance, right? If we break out, hold, and then continue, maybe. Anytime I hold anything China related overnight, it's going to be very small, just because of this. Right, they IPO DD right here, and then they delist it right there. It's just been a shit show ever since. So it's just nothing that I'm like super pumped to be a part of. XME held perfectly where we were looking at XME to hold. This is our metals, and now it's kind of coming back down to that area. So we'll see if we can get another higher low in this area, and that'll be interesting to get involved in metals. This is metals and mining, so I think it includes gold as well as like useful metals. So some precious metals and then some useful metals as well. You know, gold is always, I always consider it just absolutely 100% useless. It's no different for me from Bitcoin. So it's 80% is strong. This fund is non-diversified. Yeah. Metals and mining sector ETF. XLE, again, it's very hard to do technical analysis on this market, I'll tell you right now, which old me would still be like really swinging for the fences here. New old man me is going to be a little bit more cautious, right? No, you're not going to crack me. You're not going to crack me with the politics stuff. I have my own opinions on them. I just keep the way I look at it, and I really wish we would go back to this world is, so I have a policy that you get like 2 politics mentions on my Twitter before you just get muted. And I just don't see what you do ever again. A, because I don't care, because I'm Canadian and most people I follow are American. B, I want to be focused on trading, and I just wish we went back to the world where it's like, you know, you just politics and religion, you just kept to yourself, right? If we end up hitting the bar one day, you'll probably hear all about what I think of the guy we got in charge here and all that kind of stuff. But it's just not. I just completely stay out of it. Right? I figure people come to me. They don't come to me because of my political views. They come to me because of my trading. And I'm kind of like, I hate them all anyway. So it's like there's not really much I can have to add. So a few days ago in the Stats Edge Pro, the membership here, I was pointing out this bull flag when everyone was kind of getting, or bear flag, when kind of everyone was getting excited, and it looks like it's still a bear flag. Right? People were excited for the bounce and arc here, and people were excited for the bounce and arc here. And I remember people being, holy smokes, what a bounce and arc right here. And just, trade the trend. This is why I will only ever play my higher low play, because while it's just making these lower lows, I just don't want to be involved. Maybe short, but just never long this stuff. XLRE, so we have real estate breaking down. Like, it's like everything in the market is bad except oil and gas. So the real question, and I never trade off these questions, but I always like to propose them. Right? Oil can't hold us up forever. You just can't. You can't have an economy. It's rant time, so we'll go full seat. You can't have an economy and you can't have a market held up by oil. So one of two things is going to happen. Oil is going to join the rest of the market down, and then that's going to be kind of the last thing that was holding on, and that's going to bring everything lower. Or the other way, everything is going to kind of rise up to meet oil, right? I just don't kind of see it. I always make this bet, and maybe it just means I'm like a weak guy, and everyone goes, okay, gun to your head, what do you think is going to happen in the market? I think we're in for a big chop fest. Like, everything that's bad has to have been priced in by now, right? Everyone knows rates are going up. Everyone knows inflation is high. Right? All these, it's all priced in, but at the same time, there doesn't seem to be that catalyst that really is going to spike us. But one great follow on Twitter is Fahmy, Joseph Fahmy. If you're not following him, give him a follow. He's a great trader, been around for a long time. One thing that he was talking about is that in his experience, and he's been around for a while, he's an older guy. That made him sound like he's ancient. He's not that older, but market wise, he's an older guy, and he always talks about how in times like this, he makes a list of ETFs, and because it's someone in the pro room's looking for him. Hold on. I'll get him for you. He was saying basically it's never the shit that led you in that takes you out, right? It's never the share via copy link. Yeah, it's never the crappy markets that brought you into the trouble that get you out of the trouble. So what brought us in there was basically growth, basically anything that Cathie Wood, right? Here's a dig on Cathie Wood right here. That's the stuff that brought us into the mess. It's not going to be the stuff that takes us out of it. He always talks about how it's a new breed that pulls us out of the junk. And he's right. It was one of those things that when I read the tweet, I'm like, that makes perfect sense. He's 100% right. So what he does is he always says he watches recent IPOs and makes a list off. So what I did, I can share it here, I think. YouTube math. Come on, IPOs. I made this sheet using Trade Ideas Market Explorer. So I'm going to do some work with this. So come back next week. I'm not done yet. Don't leave. Share that. So come back next week, because what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a position and range column to this, and I'm going to constantly start scanning stuff that's up in the previous day range. But just in case you guys didn't know this, you can always grab a list like this from anywhere. You can go to your trade ideas. You can go to a new window. Bueller. Is it because it's a weird size? It's probably because it's a weird size. This is what I get. I've got like this vertical monitor here. It's a 34-inch vertical monitor, and that's usually where this virtual machine lives. I just have... my desk's a mess. Forgive me. I just figure some people get a kick out of this behind the curtain. So I have this as kind of the setup. So I've got this massive vertical screen here, and I usually have that virtual machine filling the screen, and it's just like littered with charts. But now I have it over here, so the menu bar got screwed up. It's me doing things with computers that I shouldn't do, but that's behind the scene. Again, my desk is a mess. Same reason I haven't had a haircut in 2 months. All right, so we copied the list from Excel, and now we're going to go into symbol lists. And let me make a new one, and I'm just going to call it IPO. And it should be right there. And then we're just going to paste it. We can just paste it in like that. So now if I take any scanner that I had, let's just take, I don't know, let's take this TI Strength one, and you go into your scanner and you go into symbol lists right here. You can turn that one off, and I can go in IPO personal. So you see it's right there. And then if I click on it and I make sure this box is selected, see how it says only the following lists, and I go okay. So now that didn't work, of course. I don't know why that didn't work. Okay, we'll sort that out later. But basically, I'm going to copy that into... Why didn't that work? Could it be all these gross symbols? It's probably all these gross symbols. Let's just do the non-gross ones. Probably gum something up doing that. Let's try this. Because basically, I'm going to go and I'm just going to take this list. Let's add that. Let's see if that works. I think we'll get new gross stocks. Exactly. That's exactly what I'm looking for. So again, this tweet from Fahmy, I liked it so much. I retweeted it and I shared this list that I made. The reason that I like it so much is that you're being difficult, aren't you? Yeah, I don't know why that's occurring. Let me just... I'm going to try one more thing here. Once I figure this out next week, I'm just going to keep sorting them by position in the range, but I can do some cool stuff with the Market Explorer. If you guys don't know what the Market Explorer is, it's this new system that we have. Yeah, I screwed something up there. One last thing to try. My apologies, guys. I'm going to do it from the website. You can also just go to the website. Right, if you go to symbol lists, there's IPO. Let's try that. Update lists. Is there anything screwed up here? The reason IPO lists a lot of ugly charts is it's a lot of ugly charts. For sure, it's a lot of ugly charts. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to build a list in the Market Explorer. And again, the Market Explorer is right here. It's this updating scan in which I can go through and I can build all kinds of cool stuff. Like here's bull flags and bear flags. I can do pattern recognition. I can do divergences. I can do all kinds of really cool stuff. So one scan I'm going to add to that is I'm going to add these IPOs, these recent IPOs. And just how I've identified, if anyone's wondering how I've identified the recent IPOs, is I basically just did it by saying what doesn't have a 200-day moving average yet. So, right, you need 200 days to calculate your 200-day moving average. So if it doesn't have a 200-day moving average, it's less than 200 days old. And then I'm just going to make the list constantly updating based off what's near the high of that range. Because my theory is, and this is what Follow Me was talking about, it makes perfect sense, is whatever's going to be the next industry to kind of carry us into the next bull market, you're going to see it there. You're going to see it in that IPO list. And at some point, it's going to have to break its IPO high. So I'm going to peg the IPO high, right? And then I'm going to go through and I'm going to say, let me know when it breaks that IPO level. So you're going to get a scan that does that for you, which I think will be pretty cool. So. Sound is screwed. Okay, how about now? Testing, 1, 2, 3. Fixed. Okay, perfect. Yeah, I apologize, guys. I don't know what's going on. Maybe it's got to... thanks, Brett. I see you in the pro room there. I like that because I get a pop-up right on my screen. So I don't know what's going on. I swear I didn't do anything to this. It might be time. I was hoping in the last Apple update there'd be something for me, like a new mini, but anyway. Yeah, so this is a part where I go through, I'm going to remove anything that's no longer relevant on the list, which I think is going to be a lot. And then we're going to scan, we're going to try to add things to the list. It was super reverb. Yeah, because you guys shouldn't be hearing any, because that's why I've got this plugged in so you guys don't hear any reverb. Okay, it's fine now. I should stop being obsessed. So now is when I start scanning. Now, if you want me to look at a chart, let me look. Because I'm probably going to have a really piss poor job finding anything. So like A10, I'm going to get rid of. Dow, no longer interested. Oh, I can take off your comment about the sound. There we go. Yeah, so Dow, no longer interested. Dollar Tree. Is that a buyout? Almost looks like a buyout. Because if that's not a buyout, I'm going to keep that for sure. Because that looks good. I'll probably have to call it the $2 tree soon. Oh, wrong window. Why not just a VWAP to first day or IPO open? Oh, yeah. So, again, we've got a chat room for Stats Edge Trade. So I'm talking to someone there, and he says, why not anchor a VWAP to the first day of the IPO? And that's not only a good point. I'm going to make a note of that because very soon within Trade Ideas, I'm going to be able to do some really interesting anchored VWAP work with the new Market Explorer. And I always thought an interesting strategy would be buying stocks as they break back through the anchored VWAP from the IPO. So, yes, I like that idea. I like that idea so much that I'm going to do that as a second. I hear it may be, I'm not going to hold my breath on this one, but as early as next week for me to be able to build anchored VWAP Market Explorer scans within Trade Ideas, which will be fantastic. I am going to do so much cool stuff with that stuff. So, yes, thank you for that. But that'll be a great way to do it. I'll be able to say anything that's above the anchored VWAP from the IPO date. I'll be able to do a scan that has that as well. And I'll probably be able to do as it's breaking. So you're not just finding stuff that's like well behind it. So, yes, totally agree. We're going to take off our. Again, I think I'm going to have next to nothing on the list going into Monday, which I don't think is a horrible thing. ADM, it's breaking that lower VWAP, so we're going to pull that off. NKTX, I'm going to leave that one on for now. I'm basically watching this above this base right here. Simply just break out we got this low, and then if we get that, that's kind of my higher low play, right? This thing's been in a downtrend for a long time. So this would be the first change in trend. So maybe we could get a move out of that. So I'm going to leave that one, even though it's a little far from the entry. This one's a utility, so it's holding on pretty well. So I'll keep that as well. RES actually sold off pretty well, but then recouped that anchored VWAP. So that's interesting to me. So I'm going to keep that. Anytime you see these anchored VWAPs like this, it's just another way to express a bull flag, right? So I'm just kind of hoping that this pullback holds and we can get a continuation just to get way onto the trend. Udemy, I'm going to keep this one. We bought Udemy right here and we scalped out some as we went, and then I got out the rest, I think, kind of in this area. So we had a good trade on that before, and now it's right back to where we bought it before. So if this one continues, that'd be great. I really think this stuff, I don't trade off fundamentals, but I think this stuff is the future of education. I'm taking a course now with Coursera, which is partnered with Google. It's a data analytics thing. It's basically going to teach me R and a few data visualization tools. I think that stuff's going to replace universities. MRO, as long as it holds this zone, I'm interested in this one. So I'm going to keep this one. I just kind of like bear trap looks like this, where we've had this obvious support zone right here. We broke it, and then we just rallied right back up. So we've pulled back. As long as we hold near here and start to move higher, I like the look of that one. So I'll keep that one as well. And Halo. This one's breaking back down, but I'll give it another day. So now our list is way shorter than it was before. It's more in that zone. So let's get scanning. And if anyone has anything you want me to look at, let me know. This first scan I'm looking at is going to be pretty thin. Oh, that's the bear flag scanner. I want the bull flag scanner. I think they did raise prices to 125. I was making that joke because I bet you everyone else has made that joke about them going to being the $1.25 store, but I guess they actually did it. So this scan, again, is in the Market Explorer. It's just a new system within Trade Ideas where I could build whatever it is that I want, basically, as long as it uses price and volume. It's the system in which we use to build our indicators in Trade Ideas. So I can go back and I can compare candles to each other, and there's all like just limited stuff that I can do on this, and it's really, really cool. And I really like that they pay me to work on this stuff, because don't tell them, this is the kind of stuff I do anyway when I'm trying to avoid trading. So I think it's awesome that I get paid to play with it. So this is the stuff that I'm going to do where I was talking about the Anchored VWAP from the IPO, taking that. I think that that's a great idea. So as soon as I have that capability, that will be a scan that you'll see in here. And this one, it's just looking for a bull flag. And how I programmed this is I just wanted some kind of up move, and then I wanted the Bollinger Bands contracting. It's the easiest way to do it without having to use like some sort of advanced pattern recognition kind of thing. So every scan you'll see me go through on this will have some sort of recent up move and then some sort of consolidation, right? And then it's kind of up to me to see. Oh, I think all of these, yeah. So these IPOs worked. So we can go through these too. That'll be interesting. What do I think of ADC? From short term, it's kind of choppy. Yeah, that's a chop. That one's a little too choppy for me. It's a realty, so it's a REIT. That's interesting. Anyway, it's probably gonna hold on well. It's just got I see a lot of immediate resistance up in the 71, 72. So if your risk reward to get there makes sense, I think that's a good one. Just a little choppy. For me anyway. But really it's one of those, you either sit in cash in this market or you take these like really select picks like that, like realty companies and oil and gas and all of these different things. So yeah, everything's just you're going to see a lot of oil and gas. You're going to see a lot of boring names. Just, again, a tip for people who've never used Trade Ideas, you should try it. Link in the description below, all that kind of stuff. But here it will just tell you what sector it's in. So what I'm looking at when I quickly scan through this is just, okay, what does the bear or the bull flag look like? What sector are we in? Things like float, I'll keep an eye on, right? So that's a 58 million share float. So it's a pretty tiny float. Designer brands. So this is actually a pretty interesting chart because it's holding up right near the highs here. It is really, really choppy and doesn't move very much at all. So there's not very much room unless you want to hold that for a while. They make footwear. I guess footwear is doing okay. Yeah, there's not, like, even a lot of these quote-unquote bull flags, they just look sloppy. Gurn. I remember when Gurn was a big stock. Grocery stores, man. From the beginning of the year, every pullback on grocery stores looks like it was the ticket. Which is interesting. Again, this is why fundamentals don't work. You wouldn't think grocery stores are making any more money with the inflation stuff going on. Because in theory, if their costs are getting inflated and they're giving inflated prices, it should be a net benefit. And then you'd think with inflation, people are going to be spending less and scrimping more and do that kind of stuff, right? You crack me up. You're such a smart ass. You saw S arc here. You're like, that looks very promising. Yeah, nice little bull flag here on this S arc, right? Big strong push up, and then we've got this consolidation, and that one looks great. It's, people don't know, S arc is the opposite. It's an inverse ETF of ARC, which I thought was absolutely, that the dude like has to have been a technician, because he came out with that at the perfect time. This is the IPO date for SARC. Like, it opened. I don't know how often you see this. Like, a stock literally opened at its low, traded. Like, I got weird colors here. Yeah, it opened at $30. It traded down 6 cents, and then it doubled in price. So anyone who got involved in this in the IPO only had to suffer a 6 cent pullback, and then just complete rocket ship. He picked just the perfect time to get involved with this, right? I got a request in the Stats Edge Pro trading room for Kellogg's. Yeah, this does look good from a pullback point of view. I really do like the two timing bastard play as it was taught to me, which I've told the story many times, but I can talk about if people want. But the only thing I don't really like about it is just the choppiness of it. So probably your best bet, like a decent entry, would be, yeah, see, that looks good. So an anchored VWAP from that high. You know what? You talked me into it. So, right, it's not going to be exciting, but as I just have to talk myself out of that, because exciting stuff isn't what's working right now. Right? So Kellogg's, we all know what Kellogg's is, what they do. Right? You've got this prior support or prior resistance right here is acting as support right there. That's the two timing bastard play. And then you put an anchored VWAP from that recent high and a pullback. If it gets and closes over that, that's where I'm interested. So I'll just say $70 and $68. Right. What I really need to see is a close over that yesterday's high. I just make sure when you're looking at stuff like this, make sure you don't load up too much into the end of the world stocks, because they're going to be the only thing that looks good. And even though you're not diverse, you're not getting concentrated via sector, there is like a end of the world basket of stocks, right? So if I look at like Campbell's and General Mills and right, all of just the most boring stocks ever, like you see Campbell's looks pretty close to the same. So just make sure you're not loading up, because they're all going to move together. Just because, like, just a lot of the reason I warn, and I know you probably know this anyway, is that they're different sectors, but they all have the same purpose, which is, if the world's going to end, I'm going to invest in these names. So they'll all move together. So as the market gets better, you'll see Kellogg's. Generally speaking, Walmart was always in that group. Obviously not recently, but Walmart was always in that, when shit hits the fan, because we learned this in economics class. It's against horseshit, and I never trade off this kind of stuff. But the theory being that people downgrade to Walmart when the economy gets hard. Maybe they were shopping in better stores, and then all of a sudden, when the economy gets hard, they'll go from their better stores into a Walmart. Relationships like that are just always breaking down, so I never really pay too much attention to them. There are traders out there, and there's really good traders out there that are relationship traders. They look at these relationships and they play them incredibly quickly based off what they see in the market. So I'm not knocking it. It's just, for me, they just kind of break down. So this is interesting. Other farm product, raw material merchant wholesalers. So what do you actually sell? The provision of plant-based fruit and beverage products to sell to retail customers. What the hell is a plant break? Is it juice? Is this a very complicated way of saying they sell juice? A plant-based beverage? Isn't that just juice? God, I hate word salad. It's an interesting looking bear flag in this, what is obviously a juice company. So I like the look of this one. STKL. STKL. Right, nice strong push up and then just chop sideways here. So we just have this kind of bear flag going on, right? You talk about relative strength, right? A lot of people go, what do you mean by relative strength? Well, by relative strength, I mean this. That's going up, and this chart down here is the SPY that's going down. That's it, right? This is relatively strong to the market. I like that this pop seems to have happened on earnings. Yeah, we don't have the earnings flag in trade ideas for some reason. So 8 and 7. STLK. STKL. There we go. Vegan tomato juice. Yeah, like that to me just triggers me. I know it shouldn't. I shouldn't care. But like when companies are like, "Oh, we are the foremost innovator in blah blah." You make juice. You make and sell juice. Just put that you make and sell juice. Right? You're not going to fool anyone with your and then there was Long Island Bitcoin. So if anyone was there for that, when it was like what Long Island Iced Tea Company changed their name to Long Island Blockchain during 2018 when Bitcoin was going nuts and they like doubled in price, which was just hilarious. And then when they were asked why, it's like, oh, we're going to use the blockchain to track our tea. I find that. No. Do they even exist anymore? Did they go bankrupt because of their shenanigans? VMware has some sort of a corporate action thing I don't want to get involved in. UTHR is very interesting here. Healthcare. Right, and then we're back to the two-timing bastard play. So we've got this prior resistance here acting as support right there. So if that support holds and we get a bounce off that, that's interesting. So I'm just going to go 225, 220. I don't like, there it goes. I don't like when YouTube does that. So we'll do this list and then we will go through those. Probably not all 300 of those IPOs. Okay, so that was this list. So beauty of it is here in Trade Ideas. I'll move myself a bit. So these are all position and range filters, right? So for example, if I click on this, how this is sorted, this is going to show me things in the top of their 5-day range using this IPO list. I don't know why that took so long to update. Maybe they're doing something on the server tonight. But I could go, for example, and I could just click lifetime range and I could sort. So right now, everything we click here is going to be in the high end of its lifetime range. And again, these are all IPOs, and they're IPOs is measured by stocks that are yet to have a 200 period moving average, right? So that's the So this is probably a list that I'm going to get back to periodically. I'll update it. That cloud link or that Google Drive link, if you go there periodically, I'll be updating this list and I'll update it in Trade Ideas as well. So these are all the stocks that, again, they're very close to their IPO high. And I'm just going through and I'm seeing. Oh, I clicked something else. Duh, down here. So ROCC is oil and gas, low float, big mover on that one, but oil and gas. Most of these are probably going to be oil and gas. This is an interesting lithium company, 1.7 billion, so it's not even a small cap yet. Chopping right near its high. Top, Hong Kong. Securities and Commodities Exchange out of Hong Kong. I'm going to just, for fun, I'm not going to add this one officially to the list, but so this is just for your live stream people. What is it? Top? Yeah. I'm just going to put out a, oops. I'm just interested to see because this would be the IPO open right here. So I'm just going to create an alert. IPO price break. I'm just interested in that one as it comes. What's my minimum average volume that I trade? So for day trading, it has to be much higher. Well, for day trading, to be honest, I don't care about average volume. I just care about volume today. And I want to see like 500,000 plus done that day. When it comes to swing trading, I'll lax that a bit and I'll go as low as like 250,000 shares. The reason for that is because when you swing trade, you're trading smaller and you're putting a much wider stop. So that slippage in and slippage out over the long run will matter way less. So I'm a little bit more laxed about the volume. This one here has, you can see right here, 348,000 shares. So to me, that's more than enough. This one's just interesting because this is a pattern that I want to kind of test. That's why I just said I'm not going to add it to the list, but it's interesting to me. Stocks that trade under their IPO price for a period of time, which would be kind of right here, and then trade above it, just trying a buy there with a stop below the pullback, seeing if you can get some continuation there. It's kind of a trade as old as time, but one that I've never really played with before. Yeah, that SARC, that young budding SARC company is an interesting look. Yeah, this red box thing is weird. Like people still have DVD players? It's like every time I see a payphone, I'm like, what's going on? Yeah, a lot of warrants and junk showing up in this list that I don't like personally. Bros, RTL, seat. Okay, now we're back into the low end of the range. I really want to see us. Right, you can see basically when this line turns from green to red, this guy right here, that's basically saying anything that's barely green is saying it's just above the 50% mark of its lifetime range as an IPO. Below that, it's way less than. So we can play with this. So basically, what I want to be scanning more is the kind of this stuff, right? The stuff that's at or near its high, and that's where I think just interesting off this kind of FOMI thing that he was talking about, where he's like, the next big names are going to be ones that IPO'd and they're holding near that high and then they continue. So that's more or less what I'm looking at. Didn't really get anything from it, but still, I think it's worth a try. And we have a pretty interesting list that we can play on. And again, I'm going to continue to update this every week or so. So, guys, before we get going here, is there any chart requests? Anything you want me to take a look at? As always, for the Stats Edge Pro members, I'll post in our Discord when I'm done. I go right from here and I go into kind of putting everything that I've done there together, making sure all the screenshots make sense, and then upload it. So I'll take care of that. Just kind of rambling for a second, see if there's any chart requests, which I don't see any of. As always, if you guys can just hit the like on the way out, that would be fantastic. It helps the algorithm kind of push people my way. So that'd be greatly appreciated. I'm going to call it an evening here. Go. Oh, I got one from the chat room there. Yeah, I mentioned this Go thing. I like the look of it over this top right here. Just a little bit too fast to get there. I'd like to see it maybe if you get a consolidation a couple days and then a continuation. That would be great. But I saw a few likes come through during that. Again, I appreciate it. I'll post in the way. Oh, we got some questions. I'll stay if there's questions for sure. You said intraday trading, you don't care much about the average volume, but the volume done today. Do you use relative volume? Yes, I like relative volume. I like trading high relative volume stocks over 2. For people who don't know what that means, is anything that's doing a 2 relative volume is doing double what its normal volume is. So I really like that, and I use that a lot. For me, what's important is volume today as opposed to average volume, because if I'm day trading something, if I'm just scalping in and out, I'm not really too concerned with what it did yesterday, because yesterday it may have had no news, and it may have come out with some great news overnight, and then it's going to pop as well, right? So I don't use our volume as much as, because your question says, do I use our volume to show how much the stock is going to move versus its average true range? Not really, but kind of. My theory is that if it's doing way more volume than it normal does, it's doing that 2 or 3 R volume, then you're just kind of naturally have an increase in range. Because for it to be doing way more than normal daily volume, there's got to be some news out, or it has to be breaking a significant level that's causing stops to get hit or people to pile in, or something to that effect. So yes, I don't really say, oh, it's doing 2 R vol, so it's going to be doing this much in the way of movement. Nothing like that. But I'm just saying, if you're day trading, you want to be in the high R vol stuff, because A, you're getting increased liquidity in and out, B, the higher the R vol, the less likely that you're going to have HFTs trading against you. Quite often, these HFTs have fail safes that say if the stock moves too much, just shut off, because they're trying to just make a cent here or there. They're not what the dummies on Reddit are thinking, that are betting against their stock, blah blah. The reason these things make so much money consistently is that they're trading like a penny here and there, and they're always flat and they're always hedged. So the higher the increase in volume, the more likely that those bots just get completely shut off. So that's just the way I look at it. So yeah, I use RVol, and then I just want to know how much volume there is today, right? If I do that, it's like, yeah, so I got to clear that, do I? And then I got to go here. Okay. VTNR. So this was a TI strength alert a while back in this area. So I think I still have some of this, full disclosure. So I was long in this area around 15 right here. I scalped out some when we were kind of popping up, and then I scalped out a little bit more when we broke a prior day's low. So I've got a little bit left here. The way I'm looking at this is, as long as you're kind of above these prior highs, you're good. If we start to kind of trade back in this area, then that's probably where I'll kill the rest of it. So, but ideally, you want to see a pretty quick bounce off of this zone, or chop sideways for a few days and then a bounce. That's kind of the way I'm looking at it. One thing I really like about this one is the short float of 26%. It'll be interesting to see after that move how that updates, whether or not those shorts have covered or not. But again, I just like, it was a nice bull flag. It was in the TI strength alerts. Got a great trade out of it. As always, put some in my pocket. And then we came back in as well, right? SPUN. Not a big fan of this one. Just, yeah, in a range. Nice bear flag, if anything. Is that the one you were? SUPN. Oh, Charlie's not happy. But yeah, nice looking little bear flag, but there's nothing else I see there. Thank you very much for the extra. Thanks. Oh, look at this fundamental garbage that we don't care about. Get that out of here. Like, just look, what's this pattern? Right? I don't care if they've done a non-stimulant ADHD med for paragraph, blah 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 blah. Market doesn't care. It's in a bear flag. It's breaking down. And then even if you zoom out, right? You zoom out, and what's this pattern? Right? It's a bear flag and a bear flag. So, that the way I look about it. I made Charlie cry. Yeah, I've got him trained so much that he heard your fundamental garbage over there and he started to cry. So no, not interested in that one at all. Right? For me to be interested, you've got a clear resistance area here at like 34. If that news is interesting enough, it will probably break through 34, and then maybe you get some sort of pattern there. But if it doesn't and it continues, then nobody cares about it, or it was priced into the market, right? And this is kind of what I like about trading, is this is fractal, right? So you have a bear flag here, and then we're breaking down out of, and then you zoom in, and then we have a bear flag here that we're breaking out of. So a lot of reason to be bearish, nothing to be bullish. Charlie is a great market technician already. He likes charts. He's like, it's one of the reasons that you guys have seen my charts get more and more colorful. Because if he sits on and he watches me go through scans, he gets bored if the charts aren't colorful. I think he can probably only see colors at 2 months old. All right, guys, I'm gonna call it there. It's 9:30 my time. I got to put all this stuff together, and then get to bed at a reasonable time as an old dad. Thank you everyone for coming out. If you haven't hit like, please do so on the way out. Come back to the channel more often. I am planning on doing much more videos as hopefully our life returns to some kind of normalcy. So yeah, more videos, all that kind of stuff. Thank you all for hanging out. I kind of like this time slot, so I may continue with this. Last weekend we couldn't make it because we had to take a trip to the children's hospital. No worries, everyone's fine. Just a little bit of dehydration with some rough bowels, but we got through that. So I'll talk to you all soon. Until I talk to you guys next time, trade safe. Have a good night to all of you as well.